Welcome to another Bright News discussion. My name is Shannon Braswell, and today I'm joined by a great friend of mine who comes from the other side. He's from the other Washington. I'm joined by Harrison Floyd. So, Harrison, how you doing, man?
Thanks for having me, Shannon. It's good to see you again. I hope you're staying safe over there on the other communist Washington.
I'm, do- I'm doing my best, man. It's getting hectic over here, bro. You know what
You
I'm
just
saying?
got dip, dodge, dive, duck, and dodge, right?
Yeah, man, or stay out of the city. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just flee to the hills, man. But yeah, okay. Let's I wanna ask you, for the audience, people that don't really know you and stuff like that. Can you tell us, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your career and yeah, what's been
Yeah.
going on?
I'm an Army brat, grew up moving around the world every 2 or 3 years. Joined the Marine Corps straight out of high school, did a couple deployments, two of them were combat. I was one of the first enlisted information operation planners in the Marine Corps. I worked at the Marine Corps Martial Arts Center of Excellence, teaching Marines how to teach other Marines how to fight hand-to-hand combat. And then got out and pursued a career in governance, policy, and politics. Did all the internships, fellowships on Capitol Hill that anyone could think of. Pursued dual degrees at George Washington University. And then somehow found my way on the president's reelection campaign, leading Black outreach. We were very successful with that, raising the turnout for both Black women and men, and also garnering minority votes for any Republicans since the 1960 election. So that was pretty fun and ride. And since then, I've been pursuing entrepreneurship and raising my daughter.
Okay. Yeah, man. That's a pretty long list of things you got going on, man. I just say, look, don't mess with this brother, man. He's a he's a cold piece, brother. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. I want to talk more about uh topics concerning the Black community. You know, um, like culturally, politically and economically, right? Um, you know, we're seeing a lot of um, violence being carried out, particularly like in Chicago, where you've seen a lot of the rioting going on and stuff like that. You know, um, the sort of the inability for people to tell them that they're wrong, and they're out there looting and doing all that. What how do you feel about that? Because I'm just like, man, when I was young, when we were young, our parents, grandparents would tell us, don't, we knew not to do that. We knew not to be out there, doing all that. But, it just seems like that's the sort of cool thing to do now, you know?
Yeah, it seems as though, or it doesn't seem as though, progressives have been able to figure out a way how to weaponize victimization.
Mhm.
And they've done that not just within, like the LBGT movement, but prior to that, it was the Me Too movement. And
Mhm.
they really figured out how to do that by grifting off of and stealing from the victimization and the well, not the victimization, but the disenfranchisement of the Black community for
Mhm.
decades, right? And so
Mhm.
they figured out a way how to mobilize that and use that. And so now there is, because of, there's so many different tribes, if you will, so many different movements, different groups, everyone is now a victim. And so when you see people looting in places like Philadelphia and Chicago, there's excuses being made for them, saying that, oh, well, they're doing this because they're disenfranchised and because they, don't have the same socioeconomic status, they can't provide. So they need to steal these
Mhm.
TVs to provide for them. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, but not only is there this victimization culture, but there's also a serious lack of accountability. We see that not just within our elections, but also with these rogue prosecutors, and folks who are being let off for crimes that people who are committing serious crimes are being let off, and people who, are just aligned with somebody else with a different political ideology than what the norm is for the culture are being prosecuted heavier, right? So I
Yeah.
saw this thing where this guy was he raped a girl and he got like 180 days in jail. Like
Wow.
that's crazy for rape, right?
Yeah.
But you see folks now like Sidney Powell earlier today pled guilty in the Georgia RICO case, and she's getting 6 years probation and like all these fines and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. We need to bring about more accountability and get Black men back into the families more, so that they can be a part of their children's lives, be able to employ discipline and instill that within their children.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point that you bring up about the fatherlessness. I read this statistic, man, that said like the rate of fatherlessness within the black community is like as high as 50%. Okay. And I'm just wondering how did we get here? What were the things that were put in place? I mean, was it political? Was it a cultural thing? Was it economic? Or maybe all three of them together, that sort of made it to where, because that's not the way culturally, that's not the way we used to be. It used to be that, black men were in the home, black men were the head of their house, you know what I'm saying? And there was structure. So what is it that sort of caused that uh I want to say a fatherless epidemic, and then how do we restore that?
So it's actually a combination of all three that create a very unique ecosystem. In the late 1960s, President Lyndon Johnson passed the Great Society. And stemming from that, with these different cultural movements in each decade since, we've seen an added layer being contributing to this factor. So in the 70s, welfare was being pushed on the Black community heavily. And a part of that, with receiving welfare is for a Black woman in particular, there not being a man in the house, right? So then there became a financial need for Black men to no longer be in the household, and also at that same time there was the women's working rights movement, if you will, women in the workplace being strong, independent, right? Dolly Parton, all that, working 9 to 5. So you had Black women asserting not only their independence as women, but also a financial independence or lack of dependence from men previously. So then you move on into the 80s and you see the introduction of crack cocaine into the Black communities, and then the war on drugs with President Reagan. And then when you go into the 90s, you see early 1994, at the time, Senator Joe Biden introduced the 1994 crime bill, which handed down huge sentences and punishments for involvement with drugs, particularly with crack cocaine, which was already destroying the Black community. Basically what you have there is, this financial incentive, and then to push Black men out and away from their families, and then you criminalize them, right, by not only pushing the drug into the community, but then them becoming criminals. So 1 in 3 Black men will be incarcerated at some point in time in their life, and then 1 in 4 Black men will then be incarcerated again that same year, right? So what you then see is, with getting felonies, there's certain types of employment that you just can't get.
Right.
You're not going to get one of the better paying jobs. You are you are incentivized to go back into the community and engage in nefarious activities. You're not incentivized in any means to keep a traditionally strong nuclear family, because Black women are pushing Black men out. And
Yeah.
so the only real thing for Black men to do is to, if you're trying to make it out of that entrapment system, if you will, at the time, was, engaging in sport activities or entertainment, trying to find a way out through that way. So we've just, Black men have been Black men have been disincentivized from creating strong families, maintaining and sustaining them, and Black
Yes.
women have been incentivized to break apart that structure and not engage with that. And then, also when you think about the more kids that a Black woman has, you stay on welfare, but also use the criminal justice system as a weapon against Black men with getting child support from them. I think the number is somewhere around 10.
Yeah.
You have to have like around 10 kids in order to not have to pay child support. That's crazy, right?
Right.
So you're just locked in so many different ways, whether it's through drugs, Black women not wanting to engage, child support, and it's just a vicious cycle and system.
Yes. Yeah. Now, do you think that on the so a lot of people say, well, this is why Black people need to vote Republican, right? Because they feel like all these things are sort of coming from the Democratic Party or from the left. You know what I'm saying? They push a lot of the social workers come in and say, hey, you know, you got a kid, you're a mother, well, we'll give you, whatever you need, but he can't stay here. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, do you feel like you know, that's a good enough reason to say, well, that's why Black people need to vote Republican. But the thing is that um, Black people have this sort of preconceived notion that being Republican means being a part of a racist party, right? If you're with the Mitch McConnells, you know what I'm saying? Lindsey Graham, you know what I mean, or George Bush. So what is it going to take for Black people to sort of, because we have socially and culturally, we have conservative values, right? I mean, we tend to be very conservative in our homes and things like that, but we don't vote in that direction. So what is it going to take for us to have our, say, politics align with our culture or our values?
So first, I would say before Black folks need to look at a particular political party and align themselves, they need to just be civically engaged and
Mm,
have a strong desire to look at what is going on within their communities and the particular things within their community that are unique that they want to change, right? And then
mhm,
align themselves that way. I think by just being civically engaged
mhm,
and being aware of the proper channels
mhm,
to garner results rather
mhm.
than traditional activism that we see in our community, that will start pulling folks into whatever the lane it is that's best for them. So I think the first thing is within ourselves is looking to being more engaged. I think when you look in Chicago, which is historically a very blue area,
Mhm,
folks are very upset about all the illegal immigrants that are pouring
mhm,
into the city, also in New York, and that's pulling a lot of Black people away from the Democratic Party. So, these ultra progressive policies and the way that they're implementing them is
mhm.
doing it enough on their own to break some of the hypocognition
Yeah,
that's been affecting the Black community. But
yeah,
more important, I think the Republican Party needs to do a much better job of messaging and outreach to these different communities. The Democrat Party has always done a very, very good job of not only messaging and outreach, but having a presence when the Black community is at a particular low point in time, which
mhm,
then builds or creates a feeling of shared camaraderie or unity. And that's the way that Black community really votes. It's not logical policy base. It's more, gut feeling type thing. And
yeah,
so that's why Democrats show up to George Floyd's funeral and, show up to these protests and stuff like that because their presence gives a good feeling, and conservatives just don't do that. We need to do a better job of engaging with folks. So I think that's what really needs to happen first and foremost before anything else, before you can really ask the Black community to come back if you will, to the Republican Party, given the history. Republicans have just conceded the black vote and haven't done a good job of maintaining and sustaining relationships, a positive relationship with the community. So you can't really ask for the vote or say that this is where you should belong when you haven't not only messaged to them that this is where they belong, but also provide a pathway of ownership and leadership in the future of the party. They're just not doing it. So, from my personal opinion, conservatives aren't doing enough to have the right to even make the ask.
Yeah. Okay. 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 So with that, how do you feel about now? This is something I want to ask, and it might be a little touchy for
I like touching.
okay, or like, but
As long
how
as
do
not
you
the Joe
feel?
Biden touch, as long as it's not Joe Biden touchy, we're good.
Right, right, right. You got something on you. You got something on your sleeve. uh,
You sniffing,
but how do you feel about the way in which sort of the black church and organizations like the Nation of Islam have really responded to a lot of the issues within the black community? Do you think that the black church is doing a good enough job to address the issues that are going on? You know, say like with fatherlessness, you know, motherhood, you know, single motherhood, welfare state, you know. Do you think they're doing a good enough job in answering these problems? Because to me, I don't see that, and I'm not saying that the black church is
you're trying to
inherently
have
bad.
brothers with bow ties show up at my front door all angry and pissed off, aren't you?
Well, we love Farrakhan. We love Farrakhan.
Minister Farrakhan, don't come at me, man. Don't
Yeah,
just,
man.
I already got the FBI on me, man. Just come on,
Right.
be easy. So, I mean, obviously, the black churches are doing a great job messaging to the community because look at the way that the community has been voting for so long. But, on that same foot, where with the messaging, and this isn't just with the churches, this goes to both parties, like where are the tangible results? There are none. When it comes to abortion in our community, it's through the roof. When it comes to incarceration, it's through the roof. So you can say whatever you want in the pulpit, but when you're not bringing truth to power, these words to power, if you're not living the way Jesus, if you as a minister, right, or a preacher are not leading your flock in the way that Jesus would have had us be led, then obviously you're doing the wrong thing.
Right.
So, and also, Joe Biden's a Catholic and he supports abortion up to birth. So, that
Right.
just speaks to him not following his own faith and his own convictions. So,
Yeah.
when it comes to that, I don't. I'm a sinner. I have my own issues that I need to get right with Jesus
Yeah.
on. So I'm going to withhold judgment from them. I would just say, I choose not to attend or follow certain leaders because of they're not living up to what it says clearly in the Bible.
Right.
So you can't preach one thing on Sunday and then tell people to go vote another way on Tuesday.
Right. 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 Or tell them to give you all their money, and then they'll be blessed tenfold. Right. That's just, you know.
While you're driving a Bentley to church, right?
Right. 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 Now I've heard you say, a couple times that, Atlanta is sort of the black mecca in terms of the culture, you know. But um, you know,
You gonna say New
uh,
York is?
what's that?
Were you gonna say New York is or West Coast? West Coast
No,
is the
no,
best.
no, no. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that. No, no, I'm not. I do. I think Atlanta has a I mean, okay, in terms of like success and business and black people being entrepreneurs and stuff, there is that, you know what I'm saying? But my thing is that as far as the entertainment industry, right? What's your take on that? Because that seems to be a little more like, okay, yes, it is still popular, you know, the music and the entertainment still popular, but
If
it's
if Atlanta, if Atlanta is not the nucleus of Black culture, what is, or where is it?
man, I would have said DC. I would have said Chocolate City. I mean, you know
Yeah.
what
So civil rights,
I'm
started in the South. Atlanta was
right.
the hub from the very beginning, right? It would
Yeah.
start with the civil rights movement, and then it carried on. Maynard Jackson
Mhm,
was mayor of Atlanta. He
mhm.
did a lot of things. Deion Sanders, when he came onto the scene, he was playing for the Braves and the
Right.
Falcons.
Right.
When it comes
Yeah.
to movies being produced, Marvel Studios, right?
Okay.
Tyler Perry, his
Okay.
studios in
All right.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
So when it comes with the hip hop scene, Jermaine Dupri, Usher, R. Kelly,
Outcast.
everybody, even Rick Ross, he's from Florida, and where is his primary residence? Outside of Atlanta, right?
Right. Right.
And then sports,
Okay.
you got Dominique Wilkins. Like, I can go on and on.
Right.
Atlanta is
Right.
the hub of culture. It has been and always will be. I'm not saying because I'm biased. It's just the way it is, man.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are other places that have an impact. New
Hmm.
York and
Hmm.
Los Angeles, right? And Houston, but they are not the hub. Atlanta is the hub. It's where everything comes from.
Right.
So if we're able to, and that's, I think, another reason why Democrats have been so active in trying to flip Georgia from red to blue, is because they know that's where it comes from in the Black community.
Mm. Okay. So with that, given that, okay, that's the cultural hub, right? And there's a lot popping off.
So we agree it is Atlanta now.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Okay, okay.
But given that, you know, that's the hub, right? The the output, like culturally, the music and stuff. Do you think that it's sort of there's a disadvantage, because of the sort of the promise. Okay, this might get me hit too. The music that comes out that's promiscuous or violent or all about bling bling and everything. Do you think that's a hindrance to our progression as a people? You know, um,
Yeah, people grow and evolve over time. I think that type of stuff definitely has an impact on a younger audience, because they're more impressionable,
mhm,
and they in order for them to, they want to become what they see, right?
mhm,
And they
mhm,
don't see enough Black lawyers, Black doctors, Black surgeons,
mhm,
real estate. Like, they don't see, I think, enough of that side,
mhm,
um
mhm.
because that's what the culture puts out in Atlanta, right?
Yes.
Especially in Atlanta, it's all about the entertainment space, whether
Mhm,
it's music, films, sports, whatever. So I think it's as we grow older, right? Especially folks in our community that live outside
mhm,
of the South, you
mhm,
are exposed to different cultures, different opportunities, different types of entertainment, right?
mhm, mhm.
Like Midwest, it's all about like bonfires and stuff at
Yeah.
night.
Right. Right.
I don't know what your hippie friends out there do, but
They're
hiking.
they're too high to pay attention anyways.
But I think that's where you see a lot of folks in our community, or it's a characteristic that I noticed as a common characteristic throughout a lot of Black conservatives, is that people who um, either grew up in the South and travel a lot and still live in
Mhm,
the South, or people who live outside of the South And you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think that it does have an impact, but I don't think it's not currently as big of an impact as it used to be.
Mhm.
Like Kanye West, who was also Mr. West was born in Atlanta,
Mhm.
has totally changed the game, the culture, right? Like black like artists and hip hop, like they don't even dress the same as they used to. Right now it
Oh,
kind of gives
yeah.
off more like a punk rock vibe almost,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Wearing like
yeah.
bands and like the ripped up jeans and
Right.
stuff like that. And
Yeah.
also look at what Mr. West has done. His last three albums have all been gospel albums, and that
Mhm.
has totally created a whole new lane and culture within the community. When you have a lot of these Christian rap artists who are like, some of their stuff is banging, man. Bryson Gray does a really good
Yeah.
job.
Yes, yes,
And I've
yes.
noticed that like there's more, and I'm hearing more and more of it. And so
Mhm.
he's just totally opened up a new lane. And so I think the culture is definitely shifting.
Right, right. Okay, okay. Now, for a couple of last questions here, because I wanna ask you this. Uh, are you still thinking about running for Georgia State Congress? Is that something I can ask you?
So I can't run for the state level. It would have to be federal. I have been exploring it, and I have come to a decision, and I'm going to be making an announcement probably about the first week of November. So I'm
Okay.
pretty excited about the future. I just got to iron out some details, get some stuff incorporated, and
Mhm.
then just start raising the money for it.
Okay. Okay. And then, okay, now this is my last question, man. And because I really want to get your take on this, because you work for the brother. What do you think about Donald Trump getting a lot of support from um, black black people? You know,
It's off the
you
chain. It's
yeah,
off
man.
charts. Every time you say less. So every time he gets indicted, you notice there's a huge spike in support for him. That's not
Right.
white people, it's not these Latino immigrants, it's black folks that understand this two-tiered criminal justice system. They understand what getting hit with the RICO is, and they
Mhm.
understand why they're really after the man. President
Mhm.
Trump did a lot for the black community, and black folks especially now see why Democrats came after him as hard as they did and why they're coming after him as hard as they are now, right? Because
Mhm.
there's a huge difference. Well, it's simply just happening in our pocketbooks.
Mhm.
Mortgage rates right now are 8%, so it costs $1,000 more every month for a mortgage than it was underneath President Trump with
Mhm.
getting a loan for a new home.
Mhm.
$1,000 a month. When you go to the grocery store and you're seeing these huge spikes in prices for everyday groceries,
Yeah.
black middle class people are having to go shop at the dollar store, Dollar
Mhm.
General now for basic goods that we used to be able to get like $100 worth at a grocery store. You can't even get $50 worth of the same thing anymore. It's crazy. So black folks understand not only this criminal justice system, but also the detriment in the economy and this inflation that's hitting folks in their pocket. Because we have to stay focused on the money in our bank accounts, right? Because we
Right.
don't have a lot coming in
Yeah.
like these other folks. So when it hits us, we're some of the first that see it. And you know, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Black folks built this country on our backs via slavery, and I believe that the black community is the only community that will be able to save this country by shifting their vote and
Mhm.
voting in a different direction, and saying, we don't like what's going on, so even if it's only for 4 years, we're going to try something different, and we're
Yeah.
going to make this a jump ball and make both parties have to work for our vote. And oh, by
Yes.
the way, while you're at it in this next 4 years, you better figure out this illegal immigration stuff, because you're not bringing in a whole new voting block that's going to take us out from the country that we built on our backs.
Right. Right. To that, I say, man, brother, I'm with you, man. I I want to thank you again, man, for taking the time out. I know you're very busy, so I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope we can continue to do this, man. It's very good to hear your opinions and get your take on a lot of this, man. So I
Yes,
appreciate it.
let's do it again after November 1st. Let's talk about this new thing.
Okay, okay, that sounds good, man. Always good to hear your voice.
Likewise, man. It's great seeing you. Stay blessed, buddy.
All right, you too.